to Corporate Cafecito, a podcast based on professional development, career growth, and respecting our cultural identity. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Corporate Cafecito. Yo soy Nayeli Suarez Guest. And today with me, I have Erika Dox-Martinez. And she is, well, I love your story and I love everything you said. She says she's Puerto Rican, or that's what her dad told her growing up. But she has been such an influential person in terms of navigating finances and being able to get out of the cycle of debt and also to like break that generational when we start out at a certain income level, she has actually been able to pull her family and just do amazing things with her finances. So welcome, Erika. Why don't you talk
Thank
to the
you.
group a little bit about who you are?
Sure. Thank you for having me. And my name is Erika Dox-Martinez. As you said, I started Blissful Vida, which is a financial wellness company, because I want more women and Latinas to do better with their finances and be more intentional with their finances. So a lot of it has to do with transforming our relationship with money. So that's the piece of the puzzle that I think is missing a lot in the work that's being done, especially
Yeah.
with financial literacy, because we could talk about budgets and numbers all day. But if you don't understand like the underlying roots and the habits that we have because of things that we were taught or told growing up, for instance, the Puerto Rican comment, then we're not gonna, take the time and use our energy to do the things that we should be doing better with our money. So for instance, if I had embodied that Puerto Rican um
And that was
word that
something your dad would say, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So my dad would say, that's just how it is. This is how it is because we're Puerto Ricans. So I didn't want to embody that and I didn't want to be a Puerto Rican. So, I did live in that space for so long. And there were other
Yeah.
things growing up that I embodied when it came to money. And I wasn't doing well with my money and credit card debt. But I didn't want to be a Puerto Rican or embody that saying. So I did eventually take the steps to get out of that.
So tell us about how you grew up.
My parents separated when I was 2, so I grew up in 2 separate households, and my dad and my stepmother had my brother, my mom and my stepfather had, stayed with me, and financially, the Puerto Rican side was my dad. My mom never said that term, but my mom grew up, like, and told me, "Get a job, make good money," and that's what she did. She worked in corporate. She was making decent money, but we grew up seeing a lot of credit card use on that side of the family. So I live with my mom, and that's what I saw, and that's what I thought was normal. But nobody ever taught me about compounding interest and how that adds up so quickly,
So quickly.
and so quickly. So I graduated college with $25,000 in credit card debt on top of my student loans, and my first job was making $36,000 a year. So it's like, how do you even manage that? And can you imagine the interest just piling up on that? You know,
Yeah,
not
it's
even
like you're always gonna be underground. You're always gonna be underwater.
exactly. So, I just felt like there was no way out. I wasn't planning properly to pay off that debt. I was
Mhm.
making money and then, I guess growing up too, it's like we didn't have that. We didn't grow up, I would say we were middle class, but it's like still making my own money. I had to work since I
Right.
was 14 years old. So it's not like money was just spewed at me. It was like, you want things, you have to work for
You
them.
have to work for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And my
eventually,
dad would always say, like, you want more things, you gotta work more, you gotta make more money. And I think that, growing up, my parents used credit cards a lot too. And I remember like even just rolling stuff over, my dad would get this checks for the balance free transfers or whatever, 0%, and then it'd go all to the other one. And it's dangerous to keep moving just that money around, but it's also so hard to break that cycle. So if you have student loan debt, and I was in a similar situation. I had student loan debt. I had a car. No, I had, thankfully back then we didn't really have cell phones. So I mean, because cell phones are like a car payment now too.
yeah.
I would have felt like this is it. Like I just gotta send the minimum until I die.
Right.
How did you one mentally get
Yeah.
past that and two like financially get past that?
I would say for me, my aha moments like finally came when I met my husband. So he didn't have any credit card debt at all. So when he got paid, he paid his bills, and then the rest of his money was his, like to do whatever he wanted to do with. So for me, I'm like, the rest of my money after I pay my bills is going to pay off my debt. So
Yeah.
I kind of was like in a little, hating on that fact for a little bit. And I was like, so that was my first, like, all right,
You're
I
like, "Can
really
I have
want,
your extra money?"
yeah, exactly. And he was so generous with it. Like at some point, like too much that I was like, you don't need to like spend your money. I don't know. Like it was, but that was his own financial trauma because he grew up really poor.
Mhm.
So he felt like I want to show people I'm not poor. So he would spend money on other people a lot. So that's like
Oh,
one of the things that I work on is like uncovering those little, hey, this is
why do
how
I
I
do
grew up.
this?
Yeah,
Right.
it's uncovering the habits behind. And then like some of the stuff that comes up is just so like, holy crap. Like that makes so much sense why I did that. But back to that. So I saw he had all this extra free money and like extra money that he can do whatever he wanted with. And I was like, I want that freedom. For me, that's financial freedom, not having
Right.
$1 million. So that was number one. Then when we got engaged, we were like, okay, we have to pay for a wedding ourselves.
Mhm.
So that was my number two aha moment. It's like I have no savings. I make six figures. By the time we got engaged, I was making six figures. I had no savings, just paying off my debt, hanging out, spending my money, um, not intentionally. So I think that that's the point too. Is like I wanted to be more intentional. Okay, I want to get out of debt. I want to pay for our wedding before accumulating more debt. So that
Right.
was the plan. And I was like, we're not going to get married until we can
You
do that.
pay
Go
for it.
ahead.
But
Yeah.
you think about it, like, you were making 6 figures, right? So many people would be like, "Oh my god, if I was making 6 figures, all my problems would be erased." Like, I thought that, right? Like, if I
Yeah.
hit 6 figures, yeah, that la hice, it's fine.
Exactly. But that's what I thought too. So I'm like, why am I still struggling? And then it gets to the point where you feel all these emotions about that. It's like, I feel embarrassed. I felt ashamed. I felt frustrated. Like, mom told me to do all these things and I should have it figured out by now. But they don't give us the tools that we need, growing up or in
Mhm.
school to be able to manage our finances well. So that's why I also talk about that and deal a lot with financial literacy, and I love speaking to younger people about financial literacy too because we just need the basics, and I don't know why that's not taught in school, but I know that they're working on doing all of that.
Yeah,
um
they need to, because we don't. You're right, you graduate high school and you don't have a good financial plan, and then you
no.
go into college, and maybe you get a scholarship for, like, the first year, but then if you lose that scholarship, then you have to take out student loans, or if you
Mhm.
don't finish college and you have all this student loan debt, and now you don't have anything, like, you don't have the degree to show for it, and you also just are saddled with this debt.
Exactly. So it's a really tough, especially like, yeah, we think that we hit a certain level and then all of our problems are supposed to go away. But there are people who make even less than six figures that have managed to accumulate wealth because they
Right.
just know certain
How to
things. And I
spend it,
think,
how to use
yeah.
it.
And I think one of the things I wish I incorporated a lot
Mhm.
earlier was to pay myself first. So if I could leave everyone with anything, it's try to get in the habit of just saving money and paying yourself first. Like even if it's a little bit, 1%, $10, just get in the habit of doing that because if you can do that, then you would always have a cushion and you won't feel like the paycheck to paycheck cycle to me was so frustrating. And even
Right.
making six figures with that. Um, but back to the wedding, I wanted to make sure we could pay for the wedding in full before we got married, and it took
Is
3
it a big
years.
wedding? Like,
We got married in New York City, but our whole wedding cost $13,000.
ooh,
So,
that's not
uh,
expensive, especially for New York City.
yeah. So I'm very budget conscious. I was like, this, I think we stayed within budget, but we picked a venue. Our wedding was only 80 guests, so it wasn't huge. We picked a venue that was reasonable. The one thing I do regret is not getting the wedding dress that I wanted. And what kills me is it was only a $400 difference of the dress that I got. So hindsight's 2020. I'm like, what's $400 for a dress that would have made me feel even more beautiful? But my dress was beautiful, but I was like really like counting pennies at that point,
Yeah,
and
we're
just
like,
trying to,
"Nope, it's out of
yeah,
budget." Yeah.
exactly. So a year after we got married, I became debt free. So it took me from the time we got engaged, I really buckled down. I just made the decision. So I think that that's a big part is making a decision to get out of debt and then coming up with a plan. You need to know your numbers and where you are starting from and how much can you really pay and see down the line. I work with my clients with a spreadsheet that we could dump all the numbers in. And it could show
Mhm.
you if you pay X amount, how
Yeah.
long it will take you to pay this off using whichever method works best for you to pay down your debt. So that's what helped me. And once I freed up all that money, I started investing and saving. And now I accumulated over half a million in my net worth. A lot of that's in retirement funds. And so I know I'll retire a millionaire. And to me, like that is makes me feel great. Like,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Okay. I have so many questions. All right.
sure.
When you say pay yourself first, what do you do with those $10?
Right now,
Mhm.
high yield savings accounts are where you should be putting any savings for now. I would start with that. Get your emergency fund in place, whatever that looks like to you. So a lot of people say 3 months to 6 months of your expenses should be there. High yield savings give you on average right now 4.5% interest. So a lot of people might be saving. Let's say you put in your bank account,
Mhm.
like Chase, Bank of America. That's 0.01% that they're
Oh,
giving you. So I did an Instagram video about this. Like it's 10 cents for every $1,000 you're saving over a year at your bank versus $45 at in a high yield savings account. So that's free money. I love free money. I want all of us to love free money. So that's one way you can make, interest. That's only on $1,000. So imagine if you start saving more and more, it's just gonna grow. Whereas, your bank is giving you 10 cent. What's 10 cents? Like that's ridiculous. And then they're
right.
lending out your money to make vocal bucks over here. So I would say high yield savings to start with. If you have 401k at your job or 403bs, like your retirement funds, they usually match a certain percent in your employer. That's free money. I would definitely take advantage of at least, whatever that up to that percent. If you could do more, awesome. Like when I quit my 9 to 5 to focus on my business full time, but by the time I quit, I was doing 15% by that time. But
Nice.
again, I was
Nice.
able to
Yeah.
I alleviated so much money from paying off my debt. So I had that extra income to be able to start putting it in places to help me build wealth. So it's a step-by-step process, like for sure. But I really encourage us to really just the pay yourself first, I think is what rich people do. Like that's what
Yeah.
I want. Like, we if we didn't grow up with rich family or people to tell us to do this, the school system is not telling you to do this because they don't really want us to have that cushion or
Right.
have that
To
wealth.
break
They
that
want to
cycle.
keep us,
Right.
you know, and unfortunately that's what it is. So, if you're using credit cards and have balances, you're paying them money. So in interest. So
Right.
I don't want people to do that anymore. So now my credit cards pay me. So I get my rewards. So I'm like, I flip the table on that and it feels like so good. So any way that we can bring in extra income, I'm all about it. And building wealth. Like I think a lot of us need to focus more on just getting out of that frustrated, stressful financial situation. And it just takes a little bit of planning and awareness.
How long from the time that you graduated college to the time you were debt free?
That was, I graduated 2002, and I got to for 2016. So
Okay, 14 years.
14 years.
I think that's really important to highlight, right? Because it's not an overnight thing.
No,
It may take you a decade, but I think if you delay starting it, you're still gonna have to take a decade to get out of it.
right.
I wanna
That's a
say
good point.
I graduated grad school in 2009? 2009, maybe 2000. Yeah, that sounds right. And I didn't pay off all my student loans for like another 10 years. And it's a process, right? Even if you're clearing six figures, even when you have a house, like you're still, and I always talk, mention people who don't make six figures are doing well. And I'd say like sometimes when you make more money, you want more things and you start like, oh, well now, I'm gonna do the subscription meat package that delivers like this. And now, oh, and I'm gonna buy a car and I'm gonna buy my kids a car. And before you know it, you have like college and car notes and all these things that are tying up all your money. And
Right.
so, if you make not different decisions, I don't want to say better decisions or worse decisions, but if you make different decisions, you allocate that money differently.
100%. Yeah, I think that's called lifestyle creep. Like the more you make, the more you spend. But if we incorporate that pay yourself first mentality, you would always have that percentage that you're putting away so that it won't be so tight. So I do understand that. But like one of the big people I listen to is Warren Buffett. He is the richest man in finance. And he started investing at 11 years old and he said that was too late. So um but
Oh
he's a
no,
big
it's too late for
advocate.
my kids then.
No, it's too late. Like, well, I think what I mean to say
For
is
what
he
he
meant
wanted.
to start earlier. Like,
Yeah.
so every year that we're putting it off, saving money or investing, it's just like you're saying, it's still going to take more time. It's going to add on time at the end. So
Right. Right.
if we can, if I would say the same advice for myself. I could have started sooner. I would have. I just didn't keep the habit up because I did save money before I went to college because I knew I was going away. So my mom was like, "Put this money away. You're going to need it when you go." And that money went so fast.
I put like I have a 529 for my kids and it doesn't have a lot of money. It doesn't even have like $10,000. I'm like, that's not even gonna cover a semester. That's gonna cover nothing.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than nothing, but yeah, I have 529s for my nieces and nephews, and it's minimal too.
Oh
But
my
I'm like,
God, tell that story. So when you finally had some money, what did you do?
oh yeah. So I don't think I was even out of debt at this point, but I saw the money freeing up that I was like, oh, I have this extra money. So I did open 529 accounts for my nieces and nephew. So I was like, oh, let me think about their future. But before I started investing like in my future.
Yeah. And I think that that's very, that speaks to what our community does, right? Like I told you, I had 529s for my two nephews because I wanted them to go to college and they hadn't saved anything and I wanted to make sure that they had something, something to take with them. But in that pay yourself first mentality, right? I still had debt. I wasn't debt free, but I was willing to do this for my nephews.
Yeah.
That being said, my nephew has worked with me alongside me forever. He is like my most trusted advisor. So I think it was a good investment on my part. If I would have gone back, I probably maybe would have split it and just put some money aside for that cushion, for medical, for, days when I would be unemployed.
I think one thing I saw recently too that made me think was that a lot of people put their money in the 529s for their kids and their families, but they're not investing in their retirement, where they're like, you can take out a loan for school, but you can't take out a loan for your retirement. So
Yes. Yes.
something to
I just
think
heard
about.
someone say that the other day, and I'm like, you're so right.
Yeah,
Like,
but I didn't think about that
and
either because
student loans gives you character.
I didn't think about that either when I was starting investing in 529. So I think sometimes it's just speaking these things out that where it's like, okay, that makes sense. Or if you have enough money, you're saving your own money, paying yourself first, you can help, the kids in your family with college. But a big point to your thing, like our community being Latinas, we're very family focused and we want to help our family. So I think it was great that we had that heart to want to help them.
Right,
Like, hey, we struggled probably paying for college. No one had savings for me to go to college. My
right.
mom did help me my first year with the first year, like taking out the loan for me. But after that, she's like, "You're on your own," So I was like, "Oh, I don't want them to struggle with the same thing too.
Right.
So let me help because I'm able to." But we have to like prioritize what makes the most sense for us. But I think it's great that we love our families. So
We do. And we believe in the future, right? And that's what we're saying when we make these accounts for our nieces and nephews or now our kids, like we want you to succeed and
right,
here's our granito de arena to help you because it does I do believe it takes a community and I remember trying to fill out even the FAFSA and I had to go to like one of my aunt's houses to be like I don't know how to do this and my parents were like no te vamos a dar nuestros taxes like you don't need that information.
that's scary
Um
too.
yeah.
No,
Uh,
FAFSA is like a whole nother nightmare of a form, I'm sure, for a lot of
it
people. So
it is, and what was probably hard for me a hard pill for me to swallow is that we made, too much to receive the grants, but then, like, too little to have my parents cover everything, like, so it was, I always worked full-time in college, so that I could pay for my pay for my tuition and not come out with a ton of debt. I think I came out from undergrad with $10,000 worth of debt, um, but I worked 70 hours a week, so, it's like there's the trade-off.
yeah. Oh wow. I had $80,000 of credit card. I mean, student loan debt when I graduated. But like I
Oh,
think now that's probably nothing. That's like 2 years of college. And I went to college for 5 years because I went to Northeastern and that's a 5 year school. So yeah. But the difference too with Northeastern, I was working half the year. So they have a co-op program. So I was working full time half the year and going to school half the year. And I don't even know where any of that money went because I still graduated with so much debt, like personal debt.
yeah,
So I can't think back that far, but because that was over 20 years ago. But it's crazy. But I wish I knew how to handle my money and manage my money better at that age. So that is coming out of high school. You're 18
right.
years old. I went to school at 17, but once I turned 18, the credit card companies are out there giving out credit cards
Oh,
like hotcakes.
a
I don't
bag of,
think
I think I got a bag of Skittles and a t-shirt to sign up for a credit card.
t-shirts all day. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I want t-shirts. I don't know. I'm a kid, right? So it's like,
Right.
and oh my God, that was, I don't think they're allowed to do that anymore. I don't know what the tactics are for credit cards and young adults these days. But in our day, I would say, yeah,
Yeah.
just like giving them out like hotcakes. I approved for everything. And that was not beneficial for me, but I feel like they knew what they were doing back then, but somebody caught on. I think they cannot solicit outside of colleges where there's like a
Good.
radius or something.
Good. Yeah, that was really tough because I remember getting, I mean, I had a Capital One card, I had an MBNA card, I had a mobile gas station card, like everything that they were giving, we were like, yeah, we'll sign up for it.
Sure.
We'll sign up for it. And then we had like 12 credit cards by the time we were 20 years old. I think that there's better services now for kids as they're going through like how early can you start building your kids' credit?
I think you can start early. I'm not sure what age, but I think it is something good to start doing for your kids, especially if you have your own good credit.
Mhm.
To add them on as authorized users on your credit card, but only if you have good credit, because your credit attaches to their credit. So,
Okay,
I
so if I
yeah,
add my child to my credit card, then they get the benefit of my credit history?
yes, and you don't have to give them the credit card. They'll get a credit card in their name, but you don't
Mhm.
have to give it to them if you don't want them to use it. They would just benefit whatever your credit card is doing goes on their credit report like it's theirs. So if you
Gotcha.
have a credit limit of $20,000, that's going to reflect on their credit report, and your utilization is low, it's going to reflect there. So that is one of the tips that I do use also, like to help build credit. But you have to attach it to somebody that you trust. So let's say somebody young is listening to this and you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I want to work on my credit. You have to make sure that that person is not going to F up their credit, because then it will reflect
Yeah,
on you.
because then
So whatever they're
you're
doing,
attached to it. Yeah.
exactly. So, but
That's
whatever
good
they
to know.
do with their credit, whoever you authorize, it doesn't affect you. So it doesn't work
Oh,
both
that's
ways.
good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but let's say you do give your son a credit card,
Mhm.
then, whatever he is purchasing, you're liable to pay it because it's your credit card.
It's my
So,
credit card.
yeah. So I like to help people with that. Like I'll put them as authorized users, but like my sister, I put her on mine, and I don't give her the credit card, but she's just benefiting from me having excellent credit.
My oldest is 13, so I got him like a teenager authorized one, but I get to set the limit of how much he can spend on it,
Okay.
which
That's
I think is fair. And then I'm just like, why are you spending $1.50 at the vending machine? Like, bring your own water.
they charge everything. The only thing I wish they had when I was younger was like rewards. I don't know how recent that is for credit cards, but I think that's something I definitely utilize a lot. Into I just use credit cards to pay for everything now that I'm able to. That takes a certain skill set, and you have to be able to manage. Make sure you're going to pay your credit card in full, or maybe not be in debt when you're using this strategy. Whatever works best for you, you can do it both ways. But if you're paying interest on your credit card, then the rewards are really you paying yourself those rewards. So it's
Yeah,
not
you
free
need to pay it
money
off.
anymore.
Yeah.
So I use my credit cards for everything. I get cash rewards back, and I love that free money aspect of it too, because I'm just using the money I would have used anyway for my debit account to pay for things that I'm going to buy anyway. So I think that's a great
Can you,
benefit of credit cards.
when you charge it, can you pay it off immediately
Yeah,
and
yeah, if
still
you
get
want
the
to.
rewards?
Of course. Yeah.
Oh,
You get the rewards
good.
for whatever you're charging. So when I was working, I would pay my credit card every time I got paid. So every 2 weeks. So I don't know how good it would be to do it daily. That might be too much for somebody to manage, but I
Yeah.
think but you can definitely do it more than once a month.
Okay, perfect. Any other final tips, Erica?
I really just wanna the one tip I want to leave everybody with is to pay yourself first. Like that is really the one I would love for more of us to not live paycheck to paycheck and relieve the financial stress of that constraint, space. So that's
Yeah.
really, and high yield savings accounts. Please use high yield savings accounts. You can go online. Bankrate.com gives a good list of all the options that are out there. The only thing with high yield savings accounts is that the money is not accessible right away for most of the companies that offer it. I think are
Okay.
some that you can access quickly. So that's the only thing. But if you have your savings in a bank account, obviously you could just transfer it over.
Right.
So
You could
maybe
just grab it. Yeah.
if you feel comfortable leaving a little bit there, but if you know you're not going to use that money for a while, I would just put it in high yield savings account. And I just want to also leave, just believe in yourself and believe in your worth. And if you have any habits, financial habits that you're struggling with, try to like dig in, ask, be curious about why you're doing that. Because if I could quickly share one story, my
Please. Yeah.
when I was growing up, my brother, he grew up with my dad. He got
Mhm.
$100 pair of sneakers one time. So I was so excited when I asked my dad, like, hey, can I get sneakers too? Because I was like, I'm gonna get $100 sneakers too. And they took me to Marshall's and bought me $40 sneakers. So for
You're like,
me,
this is not what I want.
no, and I was probably like 12 years old. So as a child, we interpret things however we're going to interpret it. I didn't ask my dad
Right.
or my stepmom, like, hey, why did you take me here? Like, we're, you know, brought up, it's like, be grateful for what you get. Like, we don't really question things. But I internalized
Right.
that as they love my brother more than me. So for me, spending like money became a thing to showcase love. So I spent
To
money
show
on
love and
people to
yeah,
show love or
and
get love.
value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I could say like just thinking about our money stories is really important, and tracking back things people told us. Puerto Rican story, that shopping story for me is huge. And looking back, I'm like, oh wow, I did buy, especially my boyfriends. I was very generous with money. I'm like, love me. And I
Mhm.
think it takes to do some work. Gotta love myself and realize that I don't have to spend money to it's for love. So I just want to leave people with that too. Kind of be curious about your spending habits and why you're spending, and just be a little more intentional. And just want more of us to live our blissful vida and be able to fund the life that we love. So
I love that. I love that, Erica. And you're so right. It's to understand like why we do things the way we do them and to really understand like what's driving that imbalance, or why do I feel off when I talk about money, or even just not talking about money and avoiding the topic, like why do we do that?
right. And thank you for
Um,
having this space to talk about money, because that is another big part of it. I think too is like we are not speaking about it enough. And I think we see people, financially, everybody, I don't say everybody, a lot of people seem like they're doing okay, but they're struggling in silence because they don't want to admit, or they don't, it's a shameful. There's a lot of
yeah.
shame around money, a lot of emotions around money. But the more that we talk about it, be like, hey, I resonate with that story. I was in debt, or, it's possible to come out. You see us here, we're talking about it. And it's just a matter of, being intentional, being aware, and making a plan and seeking help. Read it. There's tons of books out there, especially Latina authors now are coming out with all these books about money, and I love
Yes,
it. I love it.
me
And one
too.
day I'll have mine
Yeah.
too. But
All
until
right.
then, there's resources out there to help you. And there's money coaches like me. I'm a financial wellness coach. Like, people who want to help us get over, to the other side and live in financial bliss.
I love that.
Thank you.
Well, we will have your information available in our podcast information for this episode. Erica, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for being, so open with it, because I think the more we hear about it, the more we can identify and say like, yeah, I've been there. I want to be where you are now. So
Yes.
thank you for sharing that. You are always welcome back, and you will be extra welcome back when you finish writing your book.
Thank
Uh,
you.
so we look forward to it. And thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the space.
All right. Take care.
Bye, you too.
Aquí los esperamos next time and Corporate Cafecito.